Ode to Waking Up in a House on a San Francisco Street, and this poem appeared in the San Franciscan magazine. Thursday means get the water hot on time so I can take that first communal sip of good coffee, listen to the early bird twitter, listen to the sequoia soak himself in sunshine while downtown the skyline, on fire since I got here, blazes still brighter. As the coffee kicks in, I feel myself picked up, elevated to a helicopter view of the fractal multitudes among microclimate hillsides where the pavement to green ratio skews far to the concrete. But that concrete is continually washed by fog and tides, washed by waves from the Pacific mixed with the invisible radio waves that emanate from the great tower upon Mount Sutro and flow through these streets into the glittering bay.
So this is my new book, Mulatto, Not So Tragic. This one is about my daughter. Also, when she's home, I feel like it's home. But now she's 20, almost 8, and so she lives in a different city. But I wrote this when she went to college. It's called Emptiness. Empty nest. Emptiness creeping up my chest, an ache, a loneliness gnawing at my back. Muscles contract, the spine, the shoulder blade, the heart. Where will I be without you, daughter? As you fly away, as you fingertips scrape the sky, collecting stars. I imagine your room vacant, cannot swallow, my purpose accomplished, my fears defeated, you now grown and graduated, my emptiness, my emptiness. So selfish is this desire to keep you with me, but so strong. I fight my own urges to forever shield you, womb of my womb, from the natural disasters that await. But your time is now, your time to give birth to yourself, to move away, to give me back to myself.
Enjambment derives from the French word to stride over. Sings of anything that questions the fabric's hem. I want to sew seams and patches and embroider flowers into empty pockets on mornings where the hackney meets the grassy underfoot of relief. By which I mean, I want to hold myself as a person whose home is breaths of liminality. Enjammed between city streets and striding over the borders of the Pacific, I always lose my way. Maps are helpful, but I remember the left bank and the way I just kept turning and hoping I'd end up on a familiar street. And I wanted to stop and talk to the seamstress that one afternoon on the Seine. Ask her about how to sew seams. Patchwork. I've always been little grafted bits of people I've loved. And when people say that falling in love is a rarity, I laugh and think of the man who stopped me on the street and yelled, "Shoe game!" to anyone who listened. Shovel and dirt, I dug myself into the sidewalk and wanted to tell him that I'd had these shoes for years. They're actually these shoes I'm wearing right now. That I shined them myself, that the lining is holding strong, things that have a togetherness, and maybe that's what the enjambment of a nail polish stained jeans really refers to, the migratory monarchs passing through all orange and fluttering. I move with the same wing beat. Seasonally, I run to the edge and find new people to love so ardently that my head aches in vibrato and my heart sings in a staccato so pointed that, no joke, my resting heart rate is 120 beats per minute, and get this, it's always like that. It's always like that. It's always like that night when I stood under the streetlight off by the road and felt my chin tilt skyward. I kissed the dusk that day, and it tasted of nutmeg. Walk over, stride over, and jam the evening sky. It feels like patchwork. Thank you so much.
Are there people that are from the Bay in the house tonight? Yeah. Okay, this is like the true test if you're from the Bay. You have to answer this question. What's my favorite word? Yes! All right, if anything, that person will appreciate this poem. This piece is called Illegal Resilience, and it's after Juan Felipe Herrera and Too Short. Yes. Under fading daylights, fences rise tall like redwoods. Though we know no man-made object can match a new mother's tenacity, a new mother's will to protect. Following her footsteps, we go on, and we can't understand how we last this long. Escondidos and unseen from predator eyes and hot steel barrels. We trust the instincts our ancestors devoted to the promise of descendants that no longer recognize the lash of a belt, the alarm of a siren. We must have superpowers, how we make a bottle of water stretch across the desert sun and 2 tongues. How we take the spines of 1,000 worn bodies, carry them on our hombros, and effortlessly bear fruit for all to feed. Nuestros hijos refract rainbows, one for every sueño of freedom that ended too young. Get it calculated, do the math, and if we haven't transformed into brilliant monarch butterflies, double check your work. On moonlit plains, under the protection of cloud shadows, they tell us to move in silence, that just the threat of our noise will alert the world that we're coming. We only get more illegal every day. Blow the whistle, we're coming.
So the theme of home is, well, it's huge, right? It's everything. So it fits all of my stuff. This is called Downhill Stuff. The child is frozen in mid-dance. He clutches the end of a threadbare Jaws t-shirt, wears gold lame slippers. The boy next to him studies his brother, mimics the movement. Knees dropped, knees in. A shuffle. The older boy wears a t-shirt that says, "Here comes the Incredible Hulk," and jeans. The room is brown and green. Brown carpet, brown armchair, brown hair, green eyes. Plants in the foreground. The little one is center, looks right at the camera, while the other is off to the side. 2 brothers at play. The photo rests in a plastic sheath on a clear plastic Rolodex album. Instead of turning pages, one rotates a knob and the photos turn on a wheel, looping to reveal a new picture. There is no end and no beginning. There are several of this moment, this dance, this living room in Camp Pendleton, 1979. Mama has pulled out her guitar and her boys yell over one another their requests. For Chris, Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. For me, John Denver's Downhill Stuff. I assume position as Mama plays my song. My toddler body, a dance, an ekphrasis of its own. Her voice is rich and loamy. As a young child, I confuse it with Linda Ronstadt on the radio. Some people like that downhill stuff. They like it fast and breezy. Some people walk on the other side. They like it slow and easy. Outside is a Southern California constant. Only the veteran resident perceiving the difference in color between winter and spring, the 1,000 shades of California blue. The Inupiaq of Alaska have 70 words for ice. The brine of the Pacific, the hum of the Navy hospital are faint on the breeze. If my father were home, which he is not, he would be slipping a turkey pot pie into the microwave, slathering it with mustard, and slipping behind a wall, while Mama played and we danced. I have very few memories of my father at home. I'm sure they were fond moments, but I remember few. Before the dancing, before I could insist on downhill stuff and work my meaty legs into ecstatic wobbling, before the joy of my mother's guitar, Chris attacked a plant, maybe even the plant in the foreground. One minute he sat on the couch, the next he was cleaving leaves. He screamed, "The snakes!" in wide-eyed horror. Mama wrestled him down, held him until his vision cleared. The delusion was triggered by a blood sugar drop, onset juvenile diabetes. My mother sighed, another privation in the bind of motherhood. Chris was a hyperactive child, a fidgeting streak. He didn't want to be held, he didn't want to heed. Smart and strong, sweet as sugar 1 minute, another minute a hulk. My mother never stopped chasing him, and we were a family that ran. And this, a new hardship. My mother was 17 when she gave birth to my brother. She was already presumed a woman then, a wife. The pregnancy triggered her to be kicked out of high school. The pregnancy also triggered metastatic thyroid cancer, a scar across her throat. And her husband, our father, walked out on her, couldn't handle it, while she puked from chemo. Another scar, this one raking across her youth. There is only so much a body can take. But my mother survived, and my mother took on being a mother, and my mother took my father back, who was willing once she had healed. And though he returned, he was hardly ever there. And I wonder too about her healing. Sometimes we work just to try to make a living, or we're working just to make it pay. Sometimes we're trying to work our will, but that won't work anyway. My brother was 14 when my parents finally split for good, this time my mother doing the leaving. We were stationed in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. By then, Chris was almost always a full-fledged Hulk. Manic rages, ripping picture frames off walls, wielding his fists. My mother would try to calm him, and when he faced her, Chris would scream, "What is wrong with me?" through hot tears. By now, he had become too strong for my mother to hold him down until his vision cleared, and her exhaustion was thick as the bulging tendons in her neck. Before her entire youth be reduced to a map of scars, she took the only road she found legible. In the wake of her leaving, I retreated to my bed, would summon the comfort of Shenandoah, an imaginary older sister, from the shadows of my room. In the wake of her leaving, my brother spiraled further. He became a monster, and my father was ill-equipped. Certainly strong enough to hold Chris down, but not strong enough to show his love for him. He did love my brother, this I know. I saw it in his exasperated sighs, his gritted teeth. But it takes strength to show love, and that was a muscle my father hadn't worked out. Soon after, he dropped us with my grandparents to live, while he found a new wife, a new life. 3 years later, after we had just moved in with my mother in a trailer park in Hanover, Maryland, my brother slipped into his first alcohol-induced coma on a stranger's front lawn. He was 17. When he came to, body strapped face down on the gurney, his first words were complaint, that the paramedics cut through and ruined his jean jacket to resuscitate his body. At the same age my mother struggled to save her life, my brother was wasting his. I sometimes wonder if my father's absence is the main story between these bookends. Oh, everybody's looking for heaven. Everybody's looking for hope. Everybody looking for higher and higher, but nobody wants to be looking alone. A life is more than its most harrowing stories. A traumatic life more than its traumatic chapters. I don't ever think of these memories as pages to turn anyway. Within the tumult of my mother's motherhood, there is laughter, generosity, and joy. There were road trips in the conversion van and picnics on the beach. I have memories of my brother Goofy, and I have memories of him kind. I have memories of my mother smiling and bright, often when music was playing on the reel-to-reel, or we were dancing with the mop and broom while cleaning house, or when she had her 6-string ovation in hand. These memories are no longer tethered to something as fixed as time. They loop around as if on a wheel, no end or beginning. My mother stopped playing her guitar soon after she lost her voice. Scar tissue from surgery grew in her throat well after the cancer was gone. Eventually, it pressed against her cords like a thumb to a guitar string. And then, yelling over idling dump trucks at the recycling plant she worked at, paralyzed what she had left. Whenever a friend or relative slips into nostalgia and hark back to that soft earth of her voice, my mother's eyes dim for just a moment before she says something like, "Well, what are you going to do?" Keep it moving in a forward direction, like a river rolling down the sea. If you want to make a different selection, honey, let yourself go with gravity. I am dancing in gold lame slippers. My brother mimics my movement. I look right at the camera, my brother off to the side. Two brothers, two lives, rolling as they do. And gravity only guarantees one thing. Thanks, y'all.
This is a book called Tourmalines, and I chose this name because tourmalines, as you probably know, come in different colors, but they're such a strong stone. I think next to diamonds and rubies and sapphires, it is the strongest stone. And I always think of black people as being strong. So there you have it. I'm only going to read one of these because I don't want to take too much time. Magnolias and Memories. I grew up in Tuskegee, Alabama in the days of Jim Crow, so I've seen a lot, and I moved away. Going home. Cheehaw, crackers, cotton fields. Hot Alabama, sin-parched fields, cracked red soil. Or was it mud we played and got so dirty in? Come on, child. Come on home. Going home, where wisteria droops languorously in summertime, and afternoons are quiet as clouds, except for hums of gnats and mosquitoes and flies, still as a bird's song. Home, fresh blackberry pies, picking plums and things. Come on, child. Come on home. Come on, child. Meet little Sam. Come on, child. Take your time, but come on. We've been waiting for you. Once dirt roads, paved black tar, Logan Street, molasses thick tension, threatening hate and violence. Come on, child. Come on home. Bring the baby. She must be a big girl now. Yester scenes. Halter tops on nubile nymphs, big old trees grown old with people, Aunt Fox, Aunt Mart, Franklin Road. How you, honey? Been so long, you pretty as ever. Little aged and done you good. Come on, child. Come on home. Cousins and dogs. Remember how Squeaky Dog would smile? Sammy dead now. Shot in cold blood for civil rights. But a new little Sam to know, thank God. Walking, talking, shucking, jiving, being just me and at home with family and friends. Come on, child. Come on home. Anticipation of changes, but rather like plants which grow, same roots, riper fruit, paler flowers, just growth and changes. But roots are real, and Alabama, going home, home to my roots.